Most Canadians will never save $20,000. Not because they are lazy, not because they are bad with money, but because in 2026, the math simply does not work the way it used to. If you have opened your banking app lately and felt that quiet knot in your stomach, that feeling that everyone else somehow figured it out and you got left behind, I need you to hear this. You did not fail. The system changed, and nobody sent you the memo. The household savings rate in this country has slipped to around 3.5%. Not long ago, it was tracking closer to 5%. That means the average Canadian is now saving less than 4 cents of every dollar they bring home. Not having a cushion is not a character flaw. In 2026, it is a statistical reality. So today, we are going to look at exactly how much Canadians have saved at every age. We will talk about why $20,000 is the magic number, and we will build the roadmap to get you there, even if you are starting from zero. Let me show you the trick the headlines play on you. You will read that the average Canadian has around $95,000 in savings, and you will think, there is no way. Mine looks nothing like that. You are right, because the average is a liar. Here is why. Imagine 10 people in a room. 9 of them have $5,000. One of them is a retired executive with $900,000. The average savings in that room is over $90,000. But 9 out of 10 people in it are nowhere near that. That is Canada. The top 10% of savers drag the average up like a helium balloon. That is why you never look at the average. You look at the median, the person standing in the exact middle. And the median Canadian has closer to $25,000. And most of that is locked in a home or a pension, not sitting in cash you can touch. StatCan is blunt about this. The wealthiest 20% of households hold roughly 65.7% of the entire country's net worth. Meanwhile, household debt sits at about 179% of disposable income. That is roughly $1.80 of debt for every single dollar you earn. That is the real starting line for most people. Now, before we judge anyone, let us talk about the science. Because there is a reason saving feels physically harder when money is tight, and it has nothing to do with willpower. Researchers call it scarcity. When you are living paycheck to paycheck in a city like Toronto or Vancouver, your brain is quietly running a background program at all times. Rent, groceries, the hydro bill, the phone bill. That program never shuts off, and it eats your mental bandwidth. The landmark research on this found that the stress of scarcity can consume so much of your focus that it is like losing 13 IQ points, the equivalent of pulling an all-nighter every single night. It is not that people who are struggling make worse decisions because of who they are. It is that scarcity itself hijacks the brain and forces it to think about right now, which makes it almost impossible to plan for a decade from now. So, if you have ever wondered why you can budget perfectly on paper but fall apart in real life, this is why. You are not weak. Your bandwidth is taxed. So let us walk through the numbers, decade by decade, and find out where you actually stand. Under 35, the foundation years. This is the hardest bracket, and the data proves it. Entry-level wages have barely moved, while a one-bedroom apartment in Toronto now runs around $2,200 a month, and in Vancouver closer to $2,530. When rent eats half of your take-home pay, saving is a luxury, not a habit. For a huge share of Canadians under 35, median liquid savings sit under $2,000. If that is you, you are not behind. You are normal. But normal is exactly what we are here to fix. 35 to 44? The squeeze? This is where it gets sneaky. Incomes finally climb, so it feels like you have made it. But this is also the bracket of childcare bills, the first mortgage renewal at a higher rate, and the quiet monster called lifestyle inflation. You earn more, so you spend more. The bigger vehicle, the nicer neighborhood, the upgraded everything. The result? The highest income of your life so far, paired with the thinnest margins you have ever had. Many people in this group contribute a median of just a few $1,000s a year across their TFSA and RRSP combined, because every raise gets swallowed before it can ever be saved. 45 to 54, the catch-up years. Now the clock gets loud. This is peak earning potential colliding with the first real glimpse of retirement on the horizon. Total assets look healthier here. The median climbs meaningfully once you count home equity and pensions. But liquid, spendable savings often still lag badly. This is the decade where the people who automate pull dramatically ahead of the people who keep telling themselves they will start next year. 55 and over. The final sprint. Here, the country splits into two Canadas. On one side, the Canadians with a defined benefit pension, a guaranteed check for life. On the other, the Canadians relying entirely on their own RRSP, and that gap is brutal. The average RRSP balance around this age looks like $216,900, but the median, the real middle, is closer to $100,000. And remember, CPP and OAS combined max out at roughly $25,928 a year, and most people receive far less than the maximum. For millions, the RRSP is the only bridge to a comfortable retirement, and it is thinner than they ever hoped. So why $20,000? Why is that the magic number? Because $20,000 is not about being rich. It is a shield. It is a shield against what I call the CRA lawnmower, that surprise tax bill that arrives in the spring and mows down anyone standing out in the open with no reserves. And it is a shield against the emergency repair trap, the transmission that dies, the furnace that quits in a prairie January, the exact kind of thing that forces so many families onto high-interest credit and starts the whole debt spiral. $20,000 is the number where an emergency becomes an inconvenience instead of a catastrophe. Below it, life happens to you. At it, you start to happen to life. And something changes inside you when you cross that line. Below $20,000, you are a survivor. Every decision is defense. You buy things to feel better, the small treat, the quick hit of comfort, because the future feels out of reach anyway. Above it, you become a builder. The panic quiets. And once the panic quiets, you stop buying things to feel better, and you start buying assets to be free. That is the shift. That buffer does not just protect your bank account, it rewrites your identity. So here is how you actually get there. 3 steps. Step 1. The 30-day audit. For the next 30 days, track every single dollar. Every tap at Loblaws, every fill-up at the gas station, every subscription you forgot you were paying for. You cannot fix a leak you cannot see. Most people who do this honestly find $300 to $500 a month hiding in plain sight. Step 2. Pay yourself first. This is the one rule that changes everything. The moment your pay lands, automate a transfer into your TFSA before the bills, before the spending, before your brain even registers that the money arrived. Do not save what is left after spending. Spend what is left after saving. Even $50 a paycheck automated beats $500 you keep meaning to move. Step 3. The gap strategy. Here is the honest truth. You can only cut so much. There is a floor to your expenses, but there is no ceiling on your income. So once the budget is tight, the real growth comes from the top line. A side hustle, a certification, one hard conversation about a raise. Cutting protects you. Earning frees you. Here's the thing about this journey that nobody tells you. Progress is slow, and then it is fast. The first $1,000 feels impossible. The first $5,000 feels like climbing a wall. But somewhere past $10,000, momentum takes over. Compounding quietly kicks in, and the buffer starts building itself. Every dollar you compress into that $20,000 shield is not just money in an account. It is a step toward a different life, a quieter mind, a straighter spine, and a version of you that finally gets to build instead of just survive. You are not behind. You are right on time. Now go start the audit. If you learned something, like and hit subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.